Welcome back. Well, I guess not really welcome back, but this is going to be our first episode of a Texas softball podcast. We haven't really thought of the name yet, but it's a work in progress. So I'm Debanny. I'll be one of your hosts for this podcast. This is Emma. She comes from the Daily Texan. So we're super happy to have her on the podcast. And we'll also have Jackson, who couldn't join us today, but we're just here to basically talk D1 softball, specifically Texas women's softball, as they are really good every year. And I think it kind of gets overshadowed, especially with Texas baseball.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm super stoked to be here. Super excited to try something new. Also super excited to talk some Texas softball, especially SEC softball, now that it's going to be their first official season in the conference. But I guess just to get things going, obviously we've got preseason rankings coming out, preseason accolades. And it's going to be a really exciting season for Texas, especially because ESPN and USA Softball actually put them at the #1 ranking in the top 25.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also believe D1 softball put them at #2 and has Florida actually at #1. So we all kind of know that last season Oklahoma was the real dominant force.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because they had that Women's College World Series win, and obviously beat out Texas for the national title. So, coming around this season, I think it'll be really cool to see maybe a new #1 opponent for Texas. So, not so much Oklahoma, but the Florida Gators this time around, who they'll actually open the season with. So, I think that'll be really cool to see.
So it's interesting that you bring that up. But talk about this team that Coach Mike White has put together. You talk about this Texas team who has gone to the World Series the past 3 years in a row. And in the past two of those 3 years, they've been in the finals against Oklahoma. And unfortunately, they don't come out with the win. But I mean, you talk about what Patty Gross is doing with that OU softball team. She is the powerhouse. She is the blueprint for softball in general. And I mean, it's kind of a home game for any OU fan necessarily because I mean, it's a quick drive. It's in Oklahoma City. It's not
Mhm.
too far up from Norman, but like you said, a lot of accolades. What I did find the most interesting, yes, I do think OU did lose a lot of star power. They lost a lot of seniors, and
Mhm.
it might be Texas's year. They open up SEC play against Florida, which is #1 as of right now on D1 softball. So they'll definitely be a team to match up on. I know for a fact the preseason schedule hasn't been released yet. I'm pretty sure they're waiting to finalize a few things. I did
Mhm.
see a little chitter chatter on our good old friend X, now formerly known as Twitter. Everyone's trying to figure out who they're going to play because
Mhm.
it's not necessarily that, like last year, they had a really, really young team. You had players like Tegan, you had Reese, who's now in her junior year, Caden,
Mhm.
like they were still sophomores. So now you have a very big, dense group of veteran players who are returning. And on top of that, in the top 25 on both D1 softball and ESPN and USA softball, you have 9 SEC teams. Talk
Mhm.
about a loaded schedule in your very first year in the SEC. What are your thoughts, Emma?
I completely agree with you that it's going to be a super loaded schedule. But I also, we can see from last season that Texas kind of got a glimpse of that SEC
Mm-hmm.
competition. As we saw, obviously, well, now they're SEC OU, but also LSU and Texas A&M. And I know that Texas beat the Aggies a couple of times, but then they also came in this fall. I think it was back in October that Texas played the A&M Aggies, and they lost 12-6, unfortunately. But I definitely think that was just kind of like a little peek into SEC competition. But like you said, even though there are a lot of young players on this roster, the team did lose four really crucial seniors like Bella Dayton, Jordan Whitaker, Alyssa Washington, and Estelle Sheck. I still think that the freshmen from last season, I should say, really had really these, I guess, explosive freshman seasons, these really
Hmm.
campaigns. And so I'm just super excited to see how they really evolve even in their second year on the team. Like you were saying, I believe, who was I looking at? I believe I was looking at Katie Stewart.
Yes, Katie.
Freshman, going to be a sophomore this season. Just take her for an example. Her 58 RBIs as a freshman last season were the most in program history as a first
Mhm.
year. And she could also play four different positions, or she
Yep.
did play four different positions throughout the season. And I believe she also had the most putouts as well with 347. So it's kind of just like no matter how young the team is, like you were also saying, there's gonna be a lot of veteran presence, and then match
Hmm.
with this dominance so early on with these incoming sophomores. I think it'll be a really, really cool chance to kind of see how they mesh and see how those veterans kind of lead these younger players to hopefully a national title this season. But I'm super excited, and I want to get your thoughts on who you're most excited to see step up to the plate this season.
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, you had 8 players on this Texas roster in the top 100.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that in itself is an accomplishment in itself because the committee said 8 players on this Texas team
Mm-hmm.
can be are one of the best 100 players in softball. And if you look at that, you're talking about at least that's more than half of the starting lineup, whether that's batting or on defensive, like on who's on the field.
Yeah.
I will say last year, you were talking about Katie Stewart. She came up in such clutch moments
Mm-hmm.
for Texas that I mean, I'm not trying to dox or anything, but no one kind of expected a freshman to step up to the plate. Like there
Oh,
was times where on Saturday's game against OU, the very first time they came here at Texas, like she tied it up on a 2-run bomb. And that's
mm-hmm.
extent. And then the very next play after that, Solali, I believe it was Solali who came up and she drove in the scoring run and Texas took the lead. So
Mm-hmm.
it's clutch moments like that it's you kind of don't expect a freshman to necessarily take that much of initiative.
Yeah.
And for a freshman to step up like that, like it's a lot. It is a lot. And it's something that you don't necessarily expect. But I mean, like I said, Mike White has put an absolute masterclass of a roster. And my question is going to be like, I don't think these girls are going to hit a sophomore slump. We do tend to see that trend. It's like, well, they've set the bar so high for
Mm-hmm.
their freshman year. How are they going to be able to match that? Or are they even going to be able to match that? But I think the way Mike White has that discipline and what he has instilled into this team, they're very connected. You have Reese Atwood is going to be on her junior year. She's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a big vocal leader. Mia Scott, it's her senior year.
Oh yeah.
She's going to want it more. You have Jolie Mitchell, who's going to be she's a grad transfer, I believe.
Mm.
But they know what Texas softball is all about. So
Absolutely.
so this is going to be one of those years where it's I think they have all the pieces to win a
Mm-hmm.
national title, especially considering OU isn't as not I don't want to say as strong, but they're not as competitive.
Yes.
They're still a competitive team,
Yes.
but it's not OU teams we've seen before. Like we used to have Jada Coleman, we used to have other players.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this day and age with NIL, I think the playing field is a little more even, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, I totally get what you mean, and I agree. I feel like OU definitely has some big holes to fill.
Hmm.
And on the other hand, Texas, like we were saying, bringing back a lot of veterans who are going to be vocal leaders. And I definitely think I think the roster has 10 players that got preseason accolades from either
Yep.
D1 softball, Softball America, things like that.
All three pitchers also got all accolades too, which is crucial to your pitching staff,
Mhm.
considering you did lose Estelle Check, but
Yes.
the fact that you have three other pitchers thrown in the mix, I think the
Yes.
pitching staff is still in pretty good shape.
I'm pretty confident. I agree. I'm pretty confident that the pitching staff is gonna pretty much stay just as dominant as it's been. Like you said, having Tegan Caven come back as the right-handed pitcher. She had the most wins last season with 20,
Mm-hmm.
and then I believe she also had the most strikeouts with 135,
Mm-hmm.
with a team high of 130.2 innings pitched. Also, she was a freshman last season.
Yep.
Hopefully, we're not going to see that sophomore slump like you were talking about, but I believe that she's going to step up in a huge way. And then, like you said, she's going to be hand in hand with Mac Morgan, who was also super
Mm-hmm.
to the team last year, ended last season with an ERA of 1.96, the lowest on the team. So I definitely think they're going to be just kind of double-headed monster on the defensive end. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to see what this team does this season and just who else were you talking about? I was gonna talk about Mia Scott as well. And I believe who was it? You were saying obviously lost Estelle Check
Yep.
on the pitching side. And then I feel that the absence of Bella Dayton,
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried about that because I feel like her presence was really known throughout last season and especially during the Big 12 tournament. She was huge
Mm-hmm.
at a fielding percentage of .987. And what was it? There was like one play that she made during the Big 12 tournament that just kind of solidified like, oh yeah, she's gonna be a huge loss. I believe it was against Texas Tech. She was in the outfield. She made this really awesome catch out in left field where she literally like spun on the ground after she caught it.
I
Um,
know which one you're talking about. Yes.
it was just such a cool moment because I think she also just like stood there, like sat there for a while, like realizing that she had just made that catch. But she was just such an awesome player to watch. And so I really think that Mia Scott stepping up in her senior year is going to be crucial to kind of replace Dayton in a way. Because she can be both an infielder and an outfielder.
Yep.
But obviously she's got a really, really strong arm. I believe she came second in batting average. And she made first team All-American. I think she's also number 2 D1 softball preseason third baseman ranking. Which, well, like we said, is going to be huge for replacing Dayton. But she had a really big jump from 2023 to 24 in her slugging percentage, at least. I think she went from like a point 0.5 to like over a point 0.7.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing. I hope we can see a huge jump from her from last season to this season, obviously being a senior. But no, it'll just be really fun to see these all these girls step up to the plate really and kind of see how they can fit in and take over as those vocal leaders.
Now, I can't necessarily remember. I believe I want to say there's two freshmen on the team. I could be wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it is two freshmen just because they brought in such a heavy class last year.
Yeah.
But I have to say there is one we talked about the pitching staff. Obviously, the loss to Estelle Check is crucial just because I feel like she was a little more of the glue. She was a veteran.
Yeah.
But with that being said, not that she's been replaced, but she kind of has been replaced. And let me tell you, I think I'm not trying to compare the freshmen,
No.
but I am very excited to see Cam Salmon. You talk
Yeah.
about the number 4 recruit in the nation coming out of Beaumont, California.
Yep.
This girl is a stud. She was named on D1 softball's preseason freshman watch list.
Yep.
And she was named as in the softball American watch list as well.
Yep.
She has been so clutch. She played at the age of 14. She was playing 18U. It takes a stud. It takes a stud to do that. It takes a stud to do that, especially in the realm of softball. I didn't grow up playing softball. I had a lot of friends who played softball.
Yeah.
But and especially if you're a right-handed pitcher, the amount of movement from the windup,
Hmm.
everything it takes, like, it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot on your body. And for a freshman to be coming in with all those honors
Hmm.
should be interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I believe she plays a little bit of infield if need be,
Yeah.
but she's one of those players that you definitely want to keep your eye on because it's what's she gonna do? So
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest addition, Mike White's biggest addition in my opinion.
Yeah.
Talking about a player who not only is a number 4 recruit, I mean that's a really good bonus.
Yeah.
But the way Mike White and his staff develops pitchers is
Hmm.
insane. So I'm very interested to watch her figure out how she's doing and
Yeah.
to kind of see how her first season in not only the SEC but D1 softball is considering. I mean, I don't want to say it should be like a walk in the park for her considering she played against 18 year olds at 14.
Yeah.
We shall see how it goes. Let's not give her too
Yeah.
much bad juju.
No, no, no. I obviously let's not curse her, but I agree with you that it's definitely gonna be she's gonna be someone to look out for, and I will be interested to kind of see how many reps, how many innings she'll be given.
Mhm.
Because like you said, having that kind of I guess high level competition, like you're saying, being
Mhm.
14, playing with 18-year-olds, she's obviously got to have some kind of notion of what playing against the best of the best is going to feel
Mhm.
like. And obviously, coming into her first season with Texas, they're going into their first season in SEC play. That is going to be no easy feat in the slightest. But I feel like I'm really confident in her. Like you were saying, she's a number 4 recruit out of the entire 2024 class. So
Mhm.
that's definitely going to be something that people are going to be impressed by, and people are definitely going to watch her. To see how she does. But I think she'll mesh well. Like you said, Mike White knows how to develop his pitchers, and it'll be really cool, obviously, to see her play as a freshman and just see how she can go up from there and how well she meshes with the other pitchers as well. But I'm super, super interested to see how she does.
Regardless, it should be an interesting season. The SEC is absolutely loaded. You have 9 teams in the top 25, at least for preseason wise.
Yep.
And not even that, we still don't know what the preseason schedule is going to look like. They could schedule a little bit of Big 12 teams in there just to get up their feet wet a little bit with the Power
Yeah.
Four conference. But
Yeah.
until that comes out, that's all from us today. We'll be back here next week, hopefully joined by Jackson. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.